Well, hey there. So I look at these knees. So I wanted to talk today about the hustle culture, which is a very prevalent, celebrated point of view, very specifically for people who are starting their own businesses, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs. All the sort of like terms that we apply to people who want to do their own gig, which includes me. Here's the thing: I don't agree with the hustle culture. I am not saying that it doesn't work or that people who kind of follow those ideals are wrong or unsuccessful, which is like totally not the case. Now, what's the hustle culture, right? Like, what is this point of view? Even if you are not somebody who is at any point in starting their own business, this hustle culture is really, I think, I'm going to go on a limb and say that it's a very American point of view. I'm not going to speak for the rest of the world, but there's something wholly American about the hustle culture. When I describe it, it's always this. It's always I work 18 hours a day and I drink 6 cups of coffee and I never see my friends and I put my blood, sweat, and my tears into this business. At the end of the day, I'm here to show all my haters, that they were wrong. That's the thesis of the hustle culture, I feel. The key things here being blood, sweat, and tears. I think we have all kind of associated that as just shorthand for the work that we put into what we're doing, whether it be your own business or somebody else's business, or working out at the gym and trying to get muscle gains or lose weight or whatever the fuck you're doing. That like blood, sweat, and tears is kind of the understanding of like that's putting the full extent of yourself into something, and that thus somehow validates, like if I've put my blood, sweat, and tears, if I've literally bled, cried, and sweating is like not as painful, but you know what I mean, like if I put all of this into something, that must mean it's the most valuable. If you don't do that, if you don't show up to that extent, then your returns will not be the same, or you will not have earned the returns on whatever you've put your effort into. The value of something is equal to how hard it was to get there. I don't believe that you have to work 18 hours a day, 20 days a week, 8,000 days a year to start a business. I don't believe that you have to wring yourself out until you are nothing but beef jerky until you can finally see a return on your investment and feel proud of it. I don't believe that you have to disconnect from your family and your friends and your health and your life and the present reality of today for the promise of 2 years from now when you are, living the magical life of passive income. I don't believe that we need to suffer in order to do the things that we're meant to do on this planet. That's the other side of this, right? It's like, okay, well, if you don't believe in the hustle culture, how are you doing it? I am working on kind of going in a different direction that I think there is a real population of people doing. And I don't really know if there's a term for it, but I guess the way that I would explain it is working in flow. That's an expression that I think I've heard a number of times before and always felt that I just didn't get it. It didn't sound rational enough. It didn't sound logical enough. It didn't sound safe enough. Because I think that there is something about the hustle culture that's incredibly safe. And it's not because there's some kind of guarantee of success, embedded in hustle point of view, but more so that if you're working 18 hours a day and you're jacking yourself up on 6 cups of coffee and you are being the one man or one woman band and playing every instrument and making sure that you're accounting for all of that, there is this idea that you are doing all of these steps necessary to build a business, and that's what building a business is. That it's just about doing all the shit. The hustle culture appeals to the part of me that wants to be hyper vigilant of every step and every part of the process, and is seduced by this this false sense of security that if you are touching all points, then you are controlling all points. So then what is working in flow? What does that really mean? And what I'm discovering it means is being in flow means that things actually happen fairly easily. And that's not to say that like there is no effort or that I have not had to do anything. But for example, like the decision to leave my job, the decision to move to California, the decision to go to Peru and do ayahuasca, The decision years ago to submit my play to the New York Fringe Festival. So many things that ended up being significant choices in my life, really meaningful changes in my life. Those were so simple and so easy. I mean, I had to do the work, like I made the decision to leave New York, but you don't just then blink and you're in California. Like, you have to kind of dismantle your life and then reassemble it. So I had to do all of that. But the decision to do it, the clarity on how much that was right for me was unmistakable. The decision to go to Peru and do ayahuasca, which was so far out of my comfort zone on paper. Like, yeah, we're just going to go deep into the jungle and we're going to spend 2 weeks throwing up and having like potentially terrifying visions and a fairly primitive bathroom situation. None of that is appealing to me. And yet the decision to do it, I mean, I probably booked the trip within the same week of reading all of that. I've had to now apply that to business, which is interesting because it's actually scarier to apply this concept of flow to business than it was to apply it to something like ayahuasca. And I think it's because I think it's because of my some fears about money and some concerns of trusting this process that I am not specifically involved in when it comes to something like financial stability, which I've always felt very protective of and very guarded of. It's like, no. I'll handle the money. I don't trust anybody else to handle the money. I will handle the money. Universe, you can handle, the things that like are no real risk if they don't happen. There are a lot of people who apply this to their business and to their way of working and are very successful. And what's interesting is the success that they're experiencing. Sure, there's a financial success as well, but I think there is a deeper clarity about what success means. And I think what it comes down to is the success then is tied not just in where you've gotten to, but how you got there. And that's what brings me back to what my problem is with this hustle culture, is that it is this idea of suffer, succeed. I choose to not do that. I choose to not spend the journey in pain. It's not about suffering and suffering and suffering so that you can enjoy it later. And I think one of the big differences here between the hustle culture and working in flow is that people who work in flow, they trust that they are being guided and are being given assistance by something that they cannot see or even explain. That there is some element of this that is not theirs. And that there is some part of this process that they need to allow and not make happen. Whereas the hustle culture, I think that there's so much responsibility that people place on themselves, and there is so much of this that they take on as their own. And so it is an incredibly heavy, challenging process because you are trying to do it all by yourself. And the big difference here is not whether or not you recruit other people actively to help you. That's not what this help is. It's a spiritual perspective about starting a business. And it's bringing this idea that you can call out for guidance, you can call out for help. And however you want to see that, however that speaks to you, for me, what that is, there isn't some like outside being. There isn't like somebody I'm calling and talking to. Really what it is tapping into my own intuition, is tapping into my own higher knowledge, my own higher understanding of things and asking like, okay, what are we doing next? And, as I always say, if that speaks to you, great. And if it doesn't, let it go. But I personally have shifted out of believing that I have to do this all by myself. Like I am taking advantage of the opportunity to ask for guidance and to get help. And the best part of all is that this guidance comes from myself. And so all of this really is a lesson in trusting myself and believing in myself, which is so interesting because I think so much of the hustle culture is rooted in believing in yourself and is so rooted in this idea that other people don't believe in you, your haters. Who are these people? Now more than ever is the perfect time to let go of caring about what other people think about you and what you're doing. We are all far too self-absorbed to be worrying about somebody else and the business they're starting and whether we believe in them or not. The difference is, I think, that this flow culture accepts believing in a part of yourself that you can't rationally bring to the table, that might not appeal to people who are skeptical, that might sound weird. That's the biggest sacrifice that I'm making by shifting my perspective and by shifting away from the ideals of the hustle culture. I have to accept the fact that skeptical people might not agree with me. That people who do work very fervently and are successful in a hustle point of view might think that my point of view is lazy or misguided or weird. And I have to take my own advice and accept the fact that none of that matters at all. Anyway, as usual, I hope that was helpful for you. And of course, because it wouldn't be a YouTube video without, subscribe, comment, like, share. Feel free to make this a social experience and we can talk about it. Anyway, until next time, bye.